Welcome to A Slice with Dice, where education meets inspiration and leadership meets real life. I'm Corey Alderdice, Executive Director of the Arkansas School for Mathematics, Sciences, and the Arts. With 2 decades in school leadership, I'll share what I've learned from walking the tightrope between policy and practice, especially when it comes to doing right by gifted students and their futures. Ready to dive in? Here's this week's Slice. There's a fascinating shift happening in how young people talk about themselves and each other. I've noticed it in student conversations about their needs and even in the ways they advocate for their peers. The vocabulary of therapy, or words that used to live mostly in counseling offices or academic journals, is now part of everyday language thanks in large part to social media. It's not unusual now to hear a teenager describe a teacher's tone as gaslighting, or to explain a classmate's withdrawal as dissociation. You see, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have turned terms like boundaries, trauma, and attachment styles into cultural touchstones. And in many ways, this is good news. The more we can name what we feel, the more we can understand it. That shared language can make it easier to reach out for help, to validate one another's experiences, and to push back against unhealthy situations. For gifted students, this becomes especially cogent. Many don't necessarily experience the world in a way that's alien to anyone else, but they often process it with greater intensity or complexity. They're constantly searching for ways to name the nuance, to put words to feelings and observations that can otherwise feel slippery or misunderstood. Access to the language of therapy gives them more precise tools to articulate those layers of experience, whether they're talking about a challenging friendship, navigating perfectionism, or managing the stress of high expectations. When used thoughtfully, it can bridge the gap between what they feel internally and what they can share with others externally. But like most cultural shifts, this one comes with a catch. When clinical terms are stripped away from their original context and perhaps used loosely, they can start to lose their meaning, or worse, get weaponized. Gaslighting becomes shorthand for "I disagree with you." Setting a boundary becomes a way to shut down dialogue entirely instead of opening the door to healthier communication. The accessibility of therapy language has also helped normalize mental health conversations. Young people are more likely now to talk about openly anxiety or depression and to seek help without the same stigma previous generations carried. Now, that's a powerful change, but it can also blur the lines between the ordinary challenges of growing up and diagnosable mental health conditions. Sometimes what's needed is resilience, not a diagnosis. And the difference can be hard to see in a feed that constantly frames life's struggles through the lens of pathology. Social media has even turned therapy into a sort of micro-lesson format. A 60-second TikTok might teach a grounding exercise, a breathing technique, or a quick journal prompt. Now, for some students, these snippets might be the first time they've encountered a healthy coping tool. Yet, as helpful as they can be, they're often presented as quick fixes, simple steps that imply immediate relief without the depth, repetition, or follow-up that lasting change requires. There's also a strong sense of community in these online spaces. For a young person who feels alone in their struggles, discovering a group of people who understand exactly what they're going through can be life-changing. But there's a flip side to that belonging. Sometimes the identity formed around an illness or diagnosis can become so central that moving toward recovery feels like a kind of loss, a risk of no longer fitting into the community that once felt like home. And finally, one of the most promising aspects of this shift is how it does actually empower self-advocacy. Students who understand concepts like boundaries or emotional regulation can speak up for themselves in relationships, in classrooms, and even in institutions. That kind of clarity and confidence is invaluable. But when self-advocacy tips too far into self-protection, it can lead to rigidity or an unwillingness to sit with discomfort, compromise, or challenge, all of which are again necessary for growth. Now, none of this is to say we should try to roll back the clock. The democratization of therapy language has opened doors that were locked for too long. But with any tool, it's not just about having it, it's about learning to use it well. The real work for educators, school mental health professionals, counselors, parents, and mentors is to help young people engage with these concepts in ways that deepen the understanding rather than simply flatten it. To show them that having the words is just the first step. The next is knowing when, how, and why to use them, and when to listen instead. Because in the end, therapy language is like any other powerful tool. In the right hands, it builds connection, understanding, and empathy. In the wrong context, it can cut, isolate, or oversimplify. The challenge isn't to choose one side of the blade. It's to teach the skill and discernment to handle it well. A Slice with Dice is a production of AlderCube. Thanks for making time to reflect with me. If you're finding value in these episodes, I hope you'll subscribe and help spread the word. Until next week, lead boldly, listen closely, and keep pushing forward. I'll see you then.